Dr. Blue stood motionless before the large observation window of the research vessel, his four eyes fixed on the blue-green planet below. Earth, as its inhabitants called it, had been under the Galactic Council's secret observation for the past 50 years. But today was different. Today, he had discovered something that would change everything. "Doctor, you need to see this footage again," called out his assistant, Green, from the monitoring station. The younger researcher's antenna twitched with excitement, a rare display of emotion for their species. Dr. Blue moved away from the window, his hover pads making soft humming sounds as he glided across the laboratory floor. The massive screen before them displayed various scenes from Earth's recent events, all captured by their hidden observation drones. "Play sequence 247B, Dr. Blue instructed, his inner eyelids blinking rapidly as he processed his growing concern. The screen flickered to life, showing a burning building in what humans called an apartment complex. Smoke poured from the windows, and flames reached toward the sky. But that wasn't what interested Dr. Blue. It was what happened next. A human male, wearing no protective gear, ran into the burning structure. Moments later, he emerged carrying two small human children. After handing them to the emergency workers, he ran back inside. "Pause," Dr. Blue commanded. "Now show me his vital signs during this event." Green pulled up the biological data their sensors had recorded. Heart rate elevated, adrenaline levels spiking, fear response fully activated. He paused, his antenna drooping slightly. "Doctor, according to these readings, this human knew he might die. The survival instinct was screaming at him to run away, yet he went back in. And he had no genetic connection to those younglings." Dr. Blue asked, already knowing the answer. "None. They were complete strangers." Dr. Blue moved to his private research station and pulled up thousands of similar incidents they had recorded over the decades. Humans jumping into dangerous waters to save drowning strangers. Humans shielding others from gunfire. Humans running into natural disasters to rescue not just other humans, but even Earth's non-sentient animals. "This defies everything we know about evolutionary biology," Dr. Blue muttered, more to himself than to his assistant. "No species should be able to override their survival instincts this completely. Not for strangers. Not repeatedly. Not as a cultural norm." Green moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper despite them being alone in the lab. "Should we report this to the Council?" Dr. Blue's upper eyes closed in thought, while his lower ones continued studying the data. The Galactic Council had tasked them with identifying any unique traits or potential threats from this emerging species. But this was beyond anything they had expected to find. "If we report this," he said slowly, "the Council might see humanity as too unpredictable, too dangerous, species that can override their own biological imperatives." He let the thought hang unfinished in the air. The lab fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment. Below them, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware of the momentous discussion happening above it. Finally, Dr. Blue made his decision. "Prepare a full report. Include all incidents we've recorded of this behavior, but mark it as preliminary findings only." He turned all four eyes to his assistant. "And Green, encrypt it with my personal codes. This information, it needs to be handled carefully." As Green hurried to comply, Dr. Blue returned to the observation window. The planet below suddenly seemed different to him. More mysterious, more fascinating, and perhaps more frightening. "What else are you capable of?" he wondered aloud, watching the night side of Earth sparkle with countless human cities. "And how will the galaxy react when they find out?" He knew one thing for certain. The simple observation mission he had been running for the past decade was about to become something much more significant. The real question was whether humanity's unique ability would be seen as their greatest strength or their most dangerous flaw. Behind him, Green began compiling the report that would soon shock the entire Galactic Council to its core. 3 days after sending his report, Dr. Blue faced the Council's preliminary review board. He floated in the center of the circular chamber, surrounded by representatives from the 12 most advanced species in the galaxy. Their faces showed varying degrees of disbelief and concern. "You expect us to believe," Elder Red began, his crystalline form glowing with skepticism, "that these humans routinely ignore their own survival programming?" "The evidence is clear," Dr. Blue responded, gesturing with one of his upper limbs. The holographic display in the chamber's center came to life, showing dozens of recorded incidents simultaneously. "These are not isolated events. We have documented over 10,000 cases in the past year alone." The chamber erupted with murmurs. A cloud-like being named Mist drifted forward. "Show us your most conclusive example." Dr. Blue nodded and selected a specific recording. The hologram showed a human rescue operation during what humans called a mine collapse. A group of workers was trapped underground, with oxygen running out and the tunnels becoming more unstable by the minute. "Watch the rescue team," Dr. Blue instructed. "Our sensors detected a 92% probability of a secondary collapse. The humans detected it too. Their instruments gave them similar readings." The council members watched as the rescue team continued into the tunnel despite the warnings. The secondary collapse did occur, but not before they had reached the trapped workers. "2 rescuers died," Dr. Blue continued, his voice soft. "They had time to save themselves. Instead, they used their final moments to brace a support beam, allowing others to escape." "Madness," whispered Elder Gray, her metallic scales rattling. "Complete madness." "No," Dr. Blue countered. "This is their strength. Humans don't just override their survival instincts. They've built entire systems around this ability. Their emergency services, their medical teams, their disaster response units, all based on the assumption that humans will choose to help others despite personal risk." Green, who stood behind his mentor, activated another set of data streams. "We've analyzed their entertainment media as well. Their stories celebrate this behavior. They teach it to their young. It's not just an aberration. It's a cornerstone of their civilization." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species present had achieved space travel. Each had mastered incredible technologies, but all of them had done so while working within the bounds of their survival programming, not in spite of it. "There's more," Dr. Blue added, almost reluctantly. "They don't limit this behavior to their own species." He displayed footage of humans rescuing various Earth animals from dangerous situations. They risked their lives for non-sentient creatures, sometimes even for mechanical objects of sentimental value. Elder Red's crystalline form pulsed with concern. "This goes against every principle of evolutionary psychology we know. A species should not be able to develop like this." "And yet they have," Dr. Blue responded. "Not only developed, but thrived because of it. Their ability to deliberately override their survival instincts has allowed them to take risks that led to rapid technological advancement. Where we see certain death, they see acceptable risk for potential gain." The council members exchanged troubled looks. Finally, Mist spoke again, their voice echoing through the chamber. "If what you're showing us is true, these humans are either the most promising or the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. Perhaps both." Dr. Blue looked at the final image still hovering in the chamber, a human running into danger while others ran away. "That's what makes them unique," he said. "They're not fearless. They feel fear just as strongly as any of us, but they've developed the ability to choose whether to obey that fear." The council chamber erupted into urgent discussions. In all their centuries of space exploration, they had never encountered anything like this. The question now was what to do about it. Captain Stone adjusted her human disguise in the mirror of her small apartment. After 2 months on Earth, she still found the two-eyed face staring back at her strange. The council had chosen her for this mission because of her reputation for thorough investigation and, more importantly, her ability to remain detached and objective. "Computer, begin daily log," she said quietly. "Day 61 of direct observation." Dr. Blue's initial findings remain frustratingly accurate. She walked to her window, watching the busy street below. Her apartment overlooked what humans called a fire station, chosen specifically for her mission. In the past 2 months, she had witnessed 23 incidents of humans rushing into dangerous situations to help strangers. The sound of sirens filled the air. Stone grabbed her recording device, disguised as a human phone, and hurried downstairs. The fire truck was already pulling out, and she followed in her vehicle, keeping a safe distance as her sensors collected data. The emergency led to a bridge where a car had crashed through the safety barrier. Half the vehicle hung over the edge, swaying in the wind above the cold river below. Stone watched as 2 firefighters secured themselves with what seemed like inadequate safety equipment. Probability of cable failure, 47%, her computer analyzed quietly. Probability of successful rescue, 63%. Recommendation: wait for better equipment. But the humans didn't wait. They moved forward, working quickly as the car creaked and shifted. Stone's sensors detected their elevated heart rates, the flood of stress hormones. Clear signs that they understood the danger, yet they continued. Just like the others, she muttered, recording everything. They know the risk. They feel the fear. They choose to ignore it. The rescue was successful, but that wasn't what interested Stone. She had seen dozens of successful rescues. What fascinated her was watching the firefighters afterward. They showed no signs of considering their actions extraordinary. They simply returned to their truck, ready for the next call. Back in her apartment, Stone compiled her daily findings. Her wall displayed hundreds of similar incidents she had documented. A man pulling a stranger from a burning car, a woman diving into rough seas to save a drowning child, a crowd of people lifting a fallen concrete slab to free a trapped dog. Computer, update statistical analysis, she ordered. The numbers appeared before her. In 89% of observed crisis situations, at least one human chose to help despite clear danger to themselves. In 64% of cases, multiple humans stepped forward to assist. In 73% of instances, the humans had no prior connection to those they helped. Stone added a personal note to her report. The behavior appears to be contagious. When one human acts to help others, nearby humans often join in, creating an exponential increase in this survival override phenomenon. She paused, considering her next words carefully. Previous theories suggested this trait might be limited to specialized emergency workers. This has proven false. While professionals show more organized responses, civilians regularly demonstrate the same willingness to override survival instincts to help others. A notification flashed on her screen. Another emergency in progress. Stone checked the details. A child had fallen into a maintenance tunnel. She was about to grab her recording device when she noticed something that made her pause. Her own heart rate had increased. She felt an unfamiliar urge to do more than just observe. Computer, pause recording, she said quickly. She spent several minutes steadying her breathing before continuing. Personal note, encrypted, I find myself experiencing. Concerning reactions to these incidents. Recommendation: consider rotating investigation teams more frequently. Extended exposure to human behavior may be affecting observer objectivity. She looked out her window again, watching the humans go about their daily lives. They seemed so normal, so unaware of how their basic nature defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about intelligent life. Final note for today, she added. The most disturbing observation yet, their ability to override survival instincts may be infectious. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from over 300 species packed the circular room, their bodies representing every form of life the galaxy had produced. Some floated as clouds of gas, others crawled on multiple legs, while still others hovered in anti-gravity fields. In the center of the chamber, 3 figures faced each other: Dr. Blue, Captain Stone, and Elder Red. The debate that would decide humanity's fate was about to begin. Elder Red's crystalline form pulsed with bright colors as he spoke first. The evidence is clear. These humans represent an evolutionary mistake that could destabilize the entire galaxy. Their ability to ignore survival instincts makes them unpredictable and dangerous. The chamber hummed with nervous energy as various species indicated agreement. A historical recording played above them, showing humans forming a chain across raging floodwaters to save strangers. "Look at this behavior," Elder Red continued. "They risk multiple lives to save one. It defies all logical advancement. No species can progress safely while ignoring basic survival programming." Dr. Blue moved forward, his 4 eyes focused on the display. "With respect, Elder, you're missing the point. Their ability to override survival instincts isn't a weakness. It's their greatest strength." He gestured, and the display changed to show human scientific achievements. While we carefully calculated risks and waited for perfect conditions, they pushed boundaries. Where we saw certain death, they saw acceptable risk for potential gain. This is why they advanced so quickly. Captain Stone stepped forward next. Her time on Earth had changed her. She no longer wore her human disguise, but something of humanity lingered in her movements. "My investigation revealed something even more significant," she said. "This trait is teachable. Humans actively train their young to help others. They build their entire society around the idea that the group is more important than the individual." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. A teachable trait that could override survival instincts. The implications were enormous. Exactly why they're dangerous. Elder Red flashed bright red with emotion. "Imagine if this behavior spreads to other species. Our entire galactic society is built on predictable, logical behavior patterns." "Maybe that's the problem," Captain Stone replied quietly. The chamber fell silent, waiting for her to continue. "We've built a society based on taking no risks, making no sacrifices. We've stagnated." She played her final piece of evidence, a recording from her last day on Earth. A massive fire had broken out in a crowded building. The sequence showed humans rushing in again and again to save others, even as parts of the structure collapsed. "I watched 37 humans risk death that day," she said. 7 of them died, but they saved 212 lives. Tell me, in all our advanced civilization, how many of us would do the same?" The silence in the chamber was deafening. Dr. Blue seized the moment. "We've spent millions of years believing that strict adherence to survival instincts was the only path to advancement. Humans prove there's another way. Yes, it's frightening. Yes, it's unpredictable. But look at what they've achieved in just a few thousand years." Elder Red's color dulled slightly. "And what happens when they join our galaxy? When their ideas spread? When other species start ignoring their survival programming? Then maybe," Captain Stone said, "we'll all become something better than what pure logic and survival instincts can produce." The debate continued for hours, but the key question had been laid bare. Was humanity's unique ability a threat to galactic civilization, or was it the key to the galaxy's next great advancement? Above them, the historical recordings continued to play, showing humans doing what they had always done, choosing to help others, regardless of the cost to themselves, changing their world one impossible act of courage at a time. The colony world of New Haven wasn't supposed to know it was part of an experiment. Its 10,000 human settlers believed they were simply building a new home on a distant planet. They didn't know that hidden stations monitored their every move, or that the Galactic Council was about to test their species' most unusual trait. "Begin Phase 1. Elder Red commanded from the observation station floating high above the colony. Dr. Blue and Captain Stone stood beside him, both there to ensure the test remained within agreed-upon safety limits. "I still object to this," Dr. Blue said, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Creating artificial disasters to test human responses is unnecessary and dangerous." The council voted. Elder Red replied, his crystalline form glowing steadily. "We need to understand if this trait appears in all human populations, and if it has limits." On the screens before them, the first test began. A massive forest fire, carefully controlled by hidden technology, sprang up near one of the outlying settlements. The observers watched as the emergency alarms sounded across the colony. "Watch closely," Captain Stone said. "This will prove what I reported about their response patterns." Just as she predicted, the humans organized themselves with surprising speed. Firefighting teams moved toward the flames while other colonists evacuated those in danger. The observers monitored vital signs, stress levels, and decision-making patterns of every human in range. "Note how they prioritize," Dr. Blue pointed out. "They're saving the children first, but not just their own children. They're saving everyone's children." The fire grew more intense, engineered to push the humans to their limits. The temperature rose to dangerous levels, and smoke filled the air. By all logical measures, it was time to retreat. The humans didn't retreat. "Remarkable," Elder Red admitted reluctantly. "Even with clear escape routes available, they continue to push forward to save others." "Begin Phase 2, he ordered after the fire was contained. Over the next week, the colony faced a series of carefully orchestrated challenges: equipment failures, medical emergencies, and environmental hazards, each designed to test different aspects of human behavior. During a particularly dangerous mining accident, Captain Stone's sensors detected something unexpected. "Look at this," she called to the others. "Their stress hormones are still high, but their fear response is becoming more controlled. They're adapting." Dr. Blue moved closer to the display. "Not just adapting. They're getting better at it. Each crisis response is more organized than the last. They're learning to channel their survival override more effectively." The final test involved a massive storm threatening the main settlement. The council observers expected the humans to focus on protecting their own homes and families. Instead, they watched in amazement as the colonists worked together, sharing resources and protecting everyone equally. "End the experiment," Dr. Blue said suddenly. "We haven't completed all the scenarios," Elder Red protested. "We don't need to," Captain Stone interrupted. "Look at the data. In every single test, no matter how dangerous, at least 80% of able-bodied humans chose to help others rather than ensure their own survival. The trait isn't just consistent, it's reliable." Elder Red's crystalline form dimmed slightly as he processed this information. "But how can they maintain this? The energy cost alone of constantly overriding survival instincts should be." "They don't see it as overriding anything," Dr. Blue explained. "For humans, helping others is a survival instinct. They've evolved to understand that the survival of the group ensures the survival of all." As they watched the humans below celebrating their victory over the storm, Captain Stone added quietly, "They don't just survive together. They triumph together. And that makes them the most dangerous, or most valuable, species we've ever encountered." The observation station fell silent as its occupants contemplated what they'd learned. The tests had proven beyond doubt that humanity's unique trait wasn't a fluke or limited to a few individuals. It was a fundamental part of who they were. None of them knew that this knowledge would become crucially important much sooner than they expected. The emergency alert echoed through the Galactic Council's chambers with a sound that hadn't been heard in over 1,000 years, the signal for a planet-wide disaster. The crystalline world of Luminara, home to Elder Red species, was facing catastrophe. "Report," Elder Gray demanded, her metallic scales reflecting the red warning lights that filled the chamber. A holographic display showed the situation. Massive crystal earthquakes were shattering Luminara's crust. The planet's core was destabilizing, causing chain reactions through its crystalline structure. Billions of lives were at risk. "Our evacuation protocols are failing," an emergency coordinator announced. "The crystal quakes are too widespread. Standard safety programming is causing gridlock as everyone tries to save themselves first." Dr. Blue watched the chaos unfolding on the screens. The crystalline people of Luminara were highly logical beings. In a crisis, their survival programming told them to seek the safest route to safety. But with millions trying to do the same thing at once, the spaceports and evacuation centers were hopelessly jammed. "We need help," Captain Stone said quietly. All eyes in the chamber turned to her. We need humans. Elder Red's form flickered with emotion. Impossible. We haven't even decided if they're safe to contact, let alone. Your people are dying, Captain Stone interrupted. Humans are the only species we know who can override their survival programming. They can help when everyone else is paralyzed by self-preservation. The chamber erupted in argument, but a violent tremor from the holographic feed silenced them. Another crystal city had just collapsed. Dr. Blue moved to the center of the chamber. I've studied humans longer than anyone. Their ability to ignore survival instincts in a crisis isn't just about individual heroics. They can organize large-scale rescue operations, while the rest of us are still calculating personal risk factors. The council members watched as another evacuation attempt failed, the logical but rigid programming of their species working against them in the chaos. Make the call, Elder Gray ordered, taking command. But warn the humans of the risks. The crystal quakes are spreading faster than. Don't, Captain Stone interrupted. Don't tell them it's too dangerous. Just tell them people need help. That's all they need to know. Within hours, human rescue ships arrived at Luminara. They had come from Earth, from colonies, from anywhere within reach. They hadn't waited for detailed briefings or safety assessments. The moment they heard about the crisis, they launched. The council watched in amazement as human rescue teams plunged into the chaos, where local evacuees were gridlocked trying to calculate the safest routes. Humans created new paths through dangerous areas. They guided people to safety, improvised solutions, and most importantly, showed no signs of stopping even as conditions worsened. They're going back in. Elder Red's form pulsed with disbelief as he watched a human team return to a collapsing crystal spire. The structural integrity is below 20%. Of course they're going back in, Captain Stone replied. There are still people inside. Hour after hour, the humans worked. They taught the local emergency teams how to work around their safety programming. They set up emergency shelters. They coordinated with orbital ships. Where logical species saw impossible odds, humans saw challenges to overcome. Dr. Blue monitored their vital signs throughout the operation. They're terrified, he reported. Every single one of them is experiencing intense fear. But they keep going. They just choose to act despite it. As the rescue operation continued, the council members watched in silent awe. The trait they had feared, the ability they had debated and tested, was now saving their people. The humans weren't just rescuing victims. They were showing the galaxy a new way to face crisis. On the screens above them, another human team disappeared into the chaos of the crystal quakes, running toward danger while every logical instinct screamed to run away. 1 month after the great crystal quake of Luminara, the Galactic Council gathered for what would become a historic session. The chamber looked different now. Parts of it had been redesigned by human engineers to include what they called backup safety systems and emergency escape routes. Elder Red floated in the center of the chamber, his crystalline form glowing with a new pattern none had seen before. Beside him stood Dr. Blue, Captain Stone, and 3 human representatives who had led the rescue efforts on Luminara. The final numbers have been calculated, Elder Red announced, his voice carrying a hint of emotion that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Thanks to human intervention, we saved 94% of Luminara's population. Our own models predicted a survival rate of less than 40%. The chamber hummed with murmurs of acknowledgement. The humans stood quietly, looking almost uncomfortable with the attention. They had simply done what came naturally to them. But the numbers aren't why we're here. Captain Stone stepped forward. We're here because what happened on Luminara changed everything we thought we knew about survival and advancement. Dr. Blue activated the chamber's display system, showing side-by-side footage. The initial chaos of the evacuation attempt, and then the same locations after human teams arrived. Watch carefully, he instructed. See how the humans didn't just save people themselves. They taught our people to work differently. They showed us how to balance logic with instinct, how to calculate risks without being paralyzed by them. One of the humans, a rescue coordinator named Tom, spoke up. "We just did what any human emergency team would do. We saw people needed help, so we helped." "That's exactly the point." Elder Red's form pulsed brightly. "What you call simple, what you take for granted, is revolutionary to the rest of the galaxy. You've evolved past the tyranny of pure survival instinct without losing the ability to reason and advance." The display showed more footage. Humans working alongside crystalline beings, teaching them to form rescue chains, to take calculated risks, to value saving others as much as saving themselves. Most remarkably, Captain Stone added, some of our people began to change. After working with humans, they started showing signs of being able to override their own survival programming. It's limited, but it's there. The chamber erupted in excited discussion. The implications were enormous. Humanity's dangerous trait wasn't just useful, it was teachable. Dr. Blue raised all four of his eyes to address the council. "We've spent millions of years believing that strict adherence to survival instincts was the mark of an advanced species. Humans prove there's another path. They show us that true advancement means knowing when to override those instincts for a greater good." Elder Gray moved forward, her metallic scales gleaming. "Then the decision before us is clear. We formally propose that humanity be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with special status as teachers and emergency responders." The humans looked startled. Tom spoke again. "We don't need special status. Just let us help when we can. It's what humans do." "And that," Elder Red said, his crystal form glowing warmly, "is exactly why you're so valuable to the galaxy. You don't see your greatest strength as anything special. You've made choosing to help others, despite personal risk, into something normal." The Council's vote was unanimous. Humanity would join the galactic community not as a dangerous anomaly, but as teachers of a new way forward. Their irrational trait, the ability to override survival instincts to help others, would help guide the galaxy's next great evolutionary step. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Blue turned to Captain Stone and whispered, "Did you ever imagine, when we first observed them, that their most shocking ability would become the galaxy's greatest hope?" Captain Stone watched the humans, already deep in discussion with other species about improving emergency response protocols. "They're still teaching us," she said softly. "And the most remarkable thing is, they'll never stop."